Have you ever tried to go a whole day without telling a single lie? Not even a tiny white lie? It's harder than it sounds, right? Well, today I want to tell you a story about a man who took this to a whole new level. A man who, his entire life, never told a lie. His name was Arthur, and his reputation for honesty was known far and wide. In a kingdom not so different from our own, lived Arthur. From his childhood, he had made a simple but profound vow to always speak the truth. It wasn't just a rule he followed. It was who he was. If you asked Arthur if he liked your new haircut and he didn't, he'd gently tell you he preferred your old style. If he was late, he'd explain exactly why, even if it was embarrassing. People in his village both admired and were slightly baffled by him. His honesty was as reliable as the sunrise. The king of this land heard tales of Arthur, the man who never lied. The king, a man who navigated a world of courtly intrigue, flattery, and deception, was skeptical. No one can be that honest, he scoffed to his advisors. Everyone has a price, or a breaking point. I will prove it. The king was determined to expose Arthur as a fraud, so he summoned him to the royal palace. Arthur, a simple man, was nervous but walked into the grand throne room with a steady heart. The king sat on his golden throne, looking down with a cunning smile. Arthur, the king's voice boomed. They say you are incapable of telling a lie. Is this true? Arthur bowed respectfully and replied, Your Majesty, it is not that I am incapable. It is that I have chosen never to do so. I speak only what is true, the king chuckled. A choice, you say? We shall see how strong your resolve is. I have a challenge for you. The king leaned forward, his eyes glinting. Tomorrow, I am going on a royal hunt in the great woods. I want you to stand at the main castle gate from sunrise to sunset. Many people will ask you where I have gone. You must tell them the truth. But here is a catch. You must also tell me exactly where I will be. Arthur was puzzled. How could he know where the king would be? He hadn't been told the hunting route. He asked, Your Majesty, how can I tell you where you will be if I do not know myself? The king smiled triumphantly. That is for you to figure out. Fail, and you will be declared a liar and thrown in the dungeon. Succeed, and you will be rewarded. This was the king's clever trap. If Arthur guessed, he would likely be wrong, and thus a liar. If he said he didn't know, he would fail the king's command to tell him. Arthur knew he was in a tight spot. He spent the entire night thinking, not about how to lie, but about how to tell the truth in a situation designed to make him fail. He couldn't predict the future, but he could speak the truth about what he knew. As the sun rose the next morning, a plan had formed in his mind, a plan based entirely on truth. Arthur took his post at the castle gate as instructed. Soon, couriers, nobles, and common folk began to approach him. Where is the king? They all asked. To each one, Arthur gave the same, carefully worded answer. I cannot say for certain where the king is, but he told me he was going hunting in the great woods. This was the absolute truth. He didn't know the exact location, so he said so. Meanwhile, the king and his hunting party had a frustrating day. The deer were elusive, the weather turned sour, and the king grew more and more impatient, his mind fixated on his trap for Arthur. As evening approached, he decided to return to the castle, certain that Arthur had failed. He imagined Arthur, cornered and unable to answer, being exposed as a fraud. He rode towards the castle, a smug look on his face. As the king's party neared the gate, he saw Arthur still standing there. The king rode up to him, his voice dripping with false concern. "Well, Arthur, did you tell me where I would be?" He was ready to call the guards. Arthur looked the king directly in the eye and said calmly, "Your Majesty." "I did." The king was stunned. "What are you talking about? You sent no message. You had no idea where I was." Arthur smiled gently. "Your Majesty, when you left this morning, you didn't know where you would end up, did you? You might have chased a stag for miles, or been diverted by a storm. The only thing certain was that you would eventually come back to this very gate. So, I told myself, the king will be right here, in front of me, at the end of the day, asking if I have succeeded. And here you are, exactly as I knew you would be." The king was speechless. He stared at Arthur, his mind reeling. Arthur hadn't lied. He hadn't even guessed. He had used logic and the undeniable truth of the situation to fulfill the command perfectly. He had told himself and thus told the king the only certain location the king would be at the end of the day, right back where he started, questioning Arthur. The trap had been sprung, but it was the king who was caught in it. A slow smile spread across the king's face, replacing his shock with genuine admiration. He burst into laughter, a sound that echoed through the courtyard. "Arthur, you are truly a remarkable man. You have not only proven your honesty, but you have also shown me that truth is far more powerful and clever than any deception." The king dismounted from his horse and stood before Arthur. "You have not only won the challenge," the king declared, "but you have also won my respect. I thought I could trap you with a clever riddle, but you answered it with simple, irrefutable wisdom." From that day on, the king made Arthur his most trusted advisor. He knew that in a court full of whispers and secrets, Arthur's voice would always be the one he could depend on for the unvarnished, unshakable truth. So, what can we take away from Arthur's story? It's not just about avoiding lies. It's about the power of wit, wisdom, and understanding that the truth, when spoken thoughtfully, can be the most creative and effective solution to any problem. Arthur didn't just avoid a lie. He used the truth to outsmart a king. He showed that honesty isn't a weakness. It's a superpower. It requires courage, but it also requires intelligence. Think about it. In our own lives, how often do we resort to a small lie because it seems easier? Arthur's story reminds us that with a little more thought, the truth can not only set us free but can also solve our problems in ways we never imagined. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story and the lesson it holds, please hit that like button and subscribe for more tales of wisdom and wit. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever been in a situation where telling the truth was difficult but ultimately the best path? Share your story. Until next time, stay thoughtful and stay true.